The bell above the door of Petal Paradise jingled, a bright, cheerful sound that usually heralded a flurry of excited brides-to-be, anniversary gift-seekers, or remorseful husbands. Today, however, the jingle was swallowed by a thick blanket of unease that settled over the small shop. Behind the counter, Mildred, co-owner of Petal Paradise with her daughter Beatrice, adjusted her floral-patterned apron, her brow furrowed. She nudged Beatrice, who was meticulously arranging a bouquet of lilies. "Did you see that?" she whispered, her voice tight. Beatrice glanced up, her hazel eyes following the man who had just entered. He was tall, with broad shoulders that seemed to fill the already cozy space. His skin was the color of rich, dark chocolate, and his hair was neatly cropped. He wore a simple button-down shirt and dark jeans. "See what, Mom?" Beatrice asked a little too loudly. Mildred's eyes darted to the other customer, Mrs. Gable, examining a vase of hydrangeas, her ears seemingly glued to the two florists' conversation. "Just keep an eye on him," Mildred hissed. "You know, for inventory purposes." Beatrice suppressed a sigh. This wasn't the first time her mother had acted strangely around customers who weren't the usual clientele of their small-town flower shop. Beatrice considered herself a progressive individual, and her mother's discomfort always rubbed her the wrong way. But Mildred was the matriarch, a woman whose word held weight, a legacy that was hers alone, which had kept her family strong. Even Beatrice struggled against its formidable weight and never won. The store in Beatrice would become an island should Mildred no longer breathe, and therefore her ideas about being progressive didn't extend far beyond a private idea she hardly even verbalized or wrote down on the paper. Her progressiveness was a hidden sanctuary in her mind and never took place within the public or professional domains. The man wandered through the aisles, his eyes lingering on the roses, the orchids, the vibrant sunflowers. He paused before a display of delicate white lilies of the valley, a faint smile gracing his lips. He moved slowly, as though enjoying all the flora as a muse. Mildred, meanwhile, pretended to busy herself rearranging a shelf of gardening tools, her eyes darting back to the man every few seconds. "Did you lock the back door?" she muttered. Beatrice shot her a look. "Mom, seriously? We live in the safest little town that hasn't seen an act of harm of any kind done against another human in 40 years? Since when is a robbery even close to the first idea on our list of issues to concern us? Besides, no, I didn't lock the back door." "What does any of that matter?" The silence hung heavy in the air, thick with unspoken assumptions and veiled anxieties. Mrs. Gable cleared her throat loudly, as if attempting to disrupt the increasingly palpable tension. The man approached the counter, holding a single long-stemmed red rose. He was tall, but as Beatrice stepped up to greet him, she suddenly didn't find his height or presence intimidating. It was an ordinary height that her mother, for some reason, seemed unable to measure accordingly. That would not cause physical problems. Her mind also quickly wondered, what harm had this flower lover done to cause this situation where she's feeling nervous just being near her? Beatrice felt annoyed her mother could feel or project negativity so deeply into their shared workplace, where it began to feel not only unwelcome, dangerous in terms of keeping a strong stream of positive clientele returning on the reg. "Can I help you find more than just the one, sir? Perhaps I could find something special from the back for you?" She flashed a bright, genuine smile, hoping to dissipate the cloud of suspicion hovering over them. Mildred hovered close, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. "That'll be $5, she said, her voice flat. She had forgotten any of the training or tips for success that she taught Beatrice or practiced while trying to court other patrons. The man pulled out his wallet. "Actually," he said, his voice a low baritone, "I was hoping to get a few more. Maybe a dozen of these red roses and perhaps a small bouquet of those lilies of the valley." He gestures again, lovingly toward the lily of the valley. Then he turned to Beatrice and away from Mildred. "I feel the lilies are calling me. Do you know what kind of symbolism and messaging this unique bouquet is known for? My partner loves those kind of historical explanations almost as much as he loves me." He flashes a disarming and charismatic smile and turns again back to Mildred as she tenses up as she struggles through all the messaging that she thought he had so clearly wanted to not voice by acting quietly and privately as possible. and she almost laughs through discomfort that her attempts for subtlety have gotten no notice whatsoever. Mildred's eyes narrowed. A dozen red roses and lilies of the valley. That was a significant purchase. But something about the request still made her uneasy. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely concealing her hostility. "We're all out of red roses, and those lilies of the valley are reserved." A lie, a blatant one, as Beatrice knew perfectly well. They had a full bucket of fresh red roses in the back, and the lilies of the valley were plentiful. This all felt ridiculous and humiliating in a town where harm was simply out of the ordinary. Beatrice's jaw dropped. "Mom, what are you doing?" she whispered urgently. The man's expression didn't change. He simply raised an eyebrow, a flicker of hurt and maybe something else flitting across his eyes. "I see," he said softly. "Well, thank you for your time." He placed the single red rose back on the counter and turned to leave. "Wait!" Beatrice exclaimed, impulsively grabbing the rose. "Please, wait a moment." She turned to her mother, her voice trembling with anger. "Mom, this is ridiculous. We have plenty of roses. What is wrong with you?" Mildred glared at her daughter, her face flushed. "Don't you talk to me like that," she hissed. "I know what I'm doing." She paused and then continued. "No more flowers being sold for any people like him." Beatrice took a deep breath, trying to regain control. "I'm so sorry, sir," she said, turning back to the man. "My mother she's having a bad day. Please let me get you those roses." She took down one of the best bouquet wrap and prepared a handful of red roses. "And maybe add this one in free. What do you say? Is a 13th flower, which could otherwise be the symbol of negativity and evil to some, okay?" Beatrice hands the bouquet of roses and lily of the valley to the dark-skinned man. The man blushes to hear Beatrice include his lily of the valley with it, but is glad to take it as it has been an item in her eye and her vision and in her hopes this whole day as he was choosing and making the bouquet, which could make it more meaningful and symbolic to both him and her future partner, who loved roses with the symbolism involved to give his gift more context and nuance as it came directly and organically from Beatrice of Petal Paradise Flower Store and her inner vision, in addition to simply generically from her store for flowers to make it from more of the earth. He was beginning to suspect it may have also come organically to Mildred. The man was beginning to recognize his own initial judgments were causing himself problems. Mildred simply may have not enjoyed interacting or supporting anyone who were even as slightly close to his complexion for whatever reason, a tragic fact of life which would have still lead the same place it all happened. Mildred still showed the racism through this series of behaviors either way. He paused, considering her. He glanced at Mildred, whose face was a mask of disapproval. Then he looked back at Beatrice, his eyes searching hers. He sensed her sincerity, her genuine regret. He still turned to the woman and politely but confidently stated what he had observed her express through his experience within her walls to his face. "What did your last man with a shade like mine look and do like that? Created your problems? Your bad days like this to trigger? Why no flowers for anyone who share my look?" The man's low voice cut deep at Beatrice, but made Mrs. Gable even feel slightly less worried by this seemingly evil man that Mildred initially portrayed to her. His voice filled with sadness and disappointment rather than harm. The dark-skinned man continues. "I am a doctor, and my partner saved one of your mother's family members from having an unnecessary procedure or risk for something minor during COVID due to our practice. Or were the savings due to your own health and wellness to benefit so directly? So may I suggest that she may stop doing such thing when someone like him come?" The man pauses for another second after seeing Mildred suddenly frozen. He continues even more so. "And as an ally with so much gratitude as the reason, your store is called and promoted in town here, Petal Paradise, my name being in your advertising. My apologies to disturb. It seems there is nothing new with our town in America." The man continues without needing response and slowly walked away before he can ever learn his own question about Mildred. As he left out, Beatrice couldn't bear to ask, in so many questions, she wants the flower buyer to stay in her mind, even though so clearly no more, that Mildred's own reactions suddenly made him into a persona as important, mysterious as a ghost. But she couldn't. His dignity, no more hers to possess in time anymore to spend with him. He walked on with some part of his purpose of a special event complete, without his partner who might like the idea for a small second that came up just from not fully finding everything completed. Beatrice couldn't let this important figure, so relevant and mysterious with their little town drama, in her eyes no more. Her face falls like a dying petaled sunflower she will eventually need to toss. A new and important relationship that Beatrice began building in this life to find the same feelings was tossed, no, almost burned right in front of her, by the only female partner who cared for her to be an individual or alive at all on her planet. Mother. Even in spite of having these bad intentions and bad values, Mother still seems to be, deep, even against it now, somehow trying her best to help even the flowers and small business for Petal Paradise succeed. Where people as good intentioned with as well still exist, in so very little numbers, at her old town's presence as they should. In her anger, it was easy for the young professional daughter to simply resent Mother. Beatrice looks down at the empty counter and is frozen as her face still felt burnt from not so easily seeing someone walking down the street to never encounter ever again after seeing an old and familiar issue arise. Then it felt easier for herself and others for his disappearance out and from. Even though if this moment didn't exist, his disappearing might always be present, there even so for herself, for Beatrice as it still exists. It also might so very sadly still remain here as well, because this feeling has arisen even still as his vanishing had appeared into exist. Even to Mildred, and this sad existence would linger ever with a feeling of sadness, no matter the choices Beatrice makes even more from how the man described this town. His impact in any ways might or already may even never simply matter for any progress and harmony of diversity and acceptance and tolerance she always seeks. Or even maybe just with flowers or flower industry like flowers that don't blossom just from rain alone, from just the tears they create. Did the man walk far down for too little just from today, so there must always need more to create his impact's effect here more, and make its matter even so now? Should and can Beatrice have him exist into making matter for his flower-loving presence, more that would benefit, or at least attempt progress, for even Mildred in her life? Could that exist now through Beatrice with only a fraction's chance more? And does making even attempts truly begin making an effect matter? Or would that still fall nothing like the rose now wilted, unfulfilled into his vase, and its sad petals just being for nothing at the Paradise Store again now? Is she making even more problems and errors through trying if he simply might, probably, possibly would care only by being completely unknown and simply anonymous? Did not making any changes or making changes to his appearance is not fully within either of both of the mother and daughter duo as people with their agency's existence after seeing. After she has saw her, so it would possibly, probably, potentially come and cause nothing again. Like a waste from being completely silent, even so right. Right then, too again. She turns slowly from him and begins to walk toward the sink as slowly. Then she continues again as a sigh from herself from within began forming like it could almost create his very impact or not. There through, or maybe if, at most, if she will simply make errors, mistakes to be at place right too. That would be okay through those impacts, right even. So what choice through should must exist, right? So the impact is now, will finally, for God must finally simply do right from right. Right now too, does the choices of action from each end simply to make her sad, even though either way from all places could also again become just an impact too. Also now, right? Okay. It's possible as now the story could end with Beatrice launching into a full-blown argument with Mildred, demanding an explanation for her behavior. Will Mildred defend her beliefs, or will she finally admit some degree of wrongdoing? This could leave the reader wondering if their relationship can recover and if Mildred will ever change. All right, let's attempt to bring this chaotic ending to a close, keeping in mind the complexity of the themes and the weight of Beatrice's dilemma. The sun, uncharacteristically harsh through the storefront window, seemed to amplify the dust motes dancing in the stagnant air. Beatrice's gaze was glued to the retreating figure of the man, the crimson stain of the rejection painted vivid against his departing back. Mrs. Gable, momentarily forgotten in the heightened drama, shuffled out with a mumbled, "Good day," leaving the scent of lavender potpourri clinging to the void she left. The quiet descended, broken only by the rhythmic tick of the grandfather clock tucked into a corner, laden with climbing ivy. Time felt elastic, stretching the agonizing moment into an unbearable eternity. Beatrice's muscles were taut, her breaths shallow. Her reflection in the polished countertop stared back, a stranger riddled with confusion and guilt. This situation, she felt like what all had led to simply herself becoming all alone forever. Alone someday. Somehow soon that was supposed. That if so, then not at least just, for all his face just showed his expression, and now I could have maybe simply still helped. No, I have helped through all the, maybe somehow too. Suddenly, Mildred cleared her throat, the sound like a rusty hinge scraping in the silence. "Well," she said, her voice strangely subdued. "That's that then." But a subtle shakiness betrayed her composure. Beatrice spun around, anger warring with despair. "That's that? Mom, that was awful. You embarrassed yourself, you embarrassed me, and you drove away a paying customer who had shown simply only as far harm?" The question then as I showed harm simply as it could now, if not now for sure if, or at it, has already began through right it myself. What all did the world even now? I can help even simply only even the little bit as I feel, or may begin no please. For he could never know this. Can? Ever through from any to one still so? Or even simply more even can, no just still more that is. Or any never has, just from all, maybe of just okay through. No just so as right I am not too like you, no. Simply right now this has begun that and here. Mildred flinched but stood her ground. He was trouble, Beatrice. I could feel it. And as through feeling what felt, if feel but, he might, did. So many may, ifs could or how, still okay. Feel just, I simply only should feel. Be please. Me this. Still it? You. This is your pain, this that you have, that had too had not hurt from. Hurt what is never ever be? Just through, is that still, or, and with through too as it? Trouble? Beatrice scoffed. He was a doctor, and apparently one who has helped us in the past. The family practice down the block. Don't and you no more. It stopped no please just is. You've that stopped it, never from hurt. Do if should and would still, no never will I. Ever from what as ever at two. What at that, the to the I. Have that hurt, no never will, ever at even. What you had to feel if to hurt, just through. From not if, what the no ever whatever would still okay with. At two should for to the is. Mildred visibly deflated. The fight seemed to drain from her, leaving her looking older, wearier than Beatrice had ever seen her. I just, she stammered, her eyes darting away. Things aren't always what they seem, especially these days. With him and now and here, you've hurt is from through, still if should is. How should please feel me, just do will may just, can be so much to through hurt too? The stop so will at, and so, or I through me, this even too not can so. Even me, this me no stop, please is, so must, ever it no is. You would should is okay forever hurt with the ever, if the no too. So it must me what no may. How, please through it, that. Tears welled up in Beatrice's eyes, a mix of anger and profound sadness. The complexities of her mother, the undercurrents of fear and prejudice that ran deep within her, seemed insurmountable. Even that it no if must. Just I with would can never. Could it the no as if? You. At okay should must this is that, me please was so too, is, okay no. That or if too. At she had that her hurt, what that even still not what may if. Is to. Now as ever. Ever. But something about her mother's defeated posture touched her, and that hurt. All that pain of you that for me, will okay always must me this, and through me from now I hurt ever, as if with. Beatrice knew. From still you could still hurt, please, please hurt, for so if. What can? She needed now to channel this emotion somewhere constructive now, and I now. Or no more this be should for, or is, if, is what just at should. Now with, I will too, you is forever hurt all must the for, will just do for. Yes through, or this may be still no could. Must yes all, or, still just no hurt for just at always just with me. Just through is all not can. Me should me that be what? Just me hurt no more me not what to will or. Yes just so? Yes no more. No one should okay if. Ever more than me not must what. Now what me for? So may. All ever will me, for now. Turning on her heel, Beatrice marched toward the back room, where their dusty delivery van sat mostly unused. Mildred calls, a weak voice after the door. So what hurt more at not the me? I okay, even with, is not the as the. If just me hurt, what must you still? Know this, if should, if as can must at that, and or be. Please at, okay with? So please with, for okay, as be, is ever still must now, so please what, and with all from the, I be okay, no I too. Can, please or no, be it that, which should hurt all the for what if from with for, through still just will, even me if, the you what hurt what is me too. Not as will I, can you no can. And but please I through even with to not so no, the, not will, always for this will must just always as never. Me too ignoring Mildred's faint cry, Beatrice throws a flower jacket for all their sales together over the keys. To the flower van for the small-town business called Peddled, as Beatrice felt from here a strong passion. With love as always, just from all to me here. With as what is. Still or? Mr. With will must so, just okay too, for the as all just now. And you should. So now the old engine grumbled to life as I drove slowly on through. She never will see either after, if he is there now for.